Hi, this is Lori Leisure from To the Trade for Interior Design Community, and I have a special guest, someone who knows a little bit about websites. I'm very excited. Hi, Renee. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. How are you today, Lori?
Wonderful. And I want to know, I'm, by the way, excuse me all for being in this hotel room. I'm at Vegas Market and trying to do all the things. So keeping up the podcast schedule, but also, doing all of the market things that we are doing for you back at home. But Renee, first tell me a little bit about your business.
Different products to the interior design industry. So I have a little bit of an insider view of both kind of realms. And I also do have a background in interior design. I studied interior design in Montreal when I was living there in my earlier days. And I worked in the industry as well. I did a big redesign of restaurant in downtown Montreal right after I finished school that I oversaw and designed everything. And then after that, I also worked doing furniture design in a retail setting.
Ooh.
And then I also worked at an architecture firm as their in-house interior designer for a while. I feel like I have kind of a interesting viewpoint of lots of different sides of the industry. I also do have a background in business management and marketing, and I've been doing web design now for the last 5 years. And I really like to help businesses increase their sales and conversion rates with their websites and their digital marketing strategies. And so that's, yeah, what we're going to be talking about today.
I love that because what a unique perspective. I have rarely seen someone who got into web development who originally was an interior designer who would have that foundational knowledge of what designers really need and what is working, what would work for them for digital marketing or for web development. So that's fantastic. That must give you an edge in the design field. Like you understand what their problems are.
Yeah. So I've worked with lots of different types of businesses. When I got started, I was sort of, just working with, a very wide range of businesses. But I've decided in the last, I guess, year and a half or so that because I do have this background in interior design, I also have a real passion for design. I think that kind of comes into my web design creative side. But I have often thought, oh, maybe I should get back into interior design. But I feel like this kind of like the perfect blend of doing the web design, helping these really interesting businesses, great designers to really kind of harness, the strengths in their business and to showcase that in the best way. And so I find that really fun and exciting.
And it really is. I mean, because having that background knowledge of design, you would understand and then getting into digital marketing, which kind of goes hand in hand with web development, what it
Totally.
it is a designer really needs and how to present that out there to the focus of getting clients, the focus of that, but managing the tech piece, which is always very difficult for a small business owner who wears so many hats. I mean, it's just kind of one of those things that falls off the burner, back burner when you are constantly running around to projects and managing people and managing products and expectations to think about sitting down and really digging into your SEO. That's a nightmare for designers because it's using a different part of their brain that they don't really want to implode, like, like the really tough tricks that they need to dig into, and it's just not something that they are familiar with. So they don't know the language of SEO. They don't probably understand what a slug is or metadata or all of the background information, the technical side of it, nor should they have to. They have a lot of technical information that they have to remember every single day. And so it's just very difficult for them because as small business owners, they have only so much space in their brain for this kind of thing, for the technology piece, and they're expected to know detailed information about how to do email marketing and, social media and marketing and finance and running a business and search, SOPs and all of the crazy things that go along with running a business, and I think that's why you see so many websites that just it's up and they never look at it again. They just think about, like, "Why am I not getting clients?" You know, from the website. It becomes more referral based, I think. We've asked the designers many times, and many of them will say, a large portion of their business comes from referrals.
Yeah, and I just think, a lot of small business owners do try to DIY their business when they're starting out because maybe, they're investing money into other things, and that totally makes sense. But I feel like the importance of a website now is so different than it was, say, 10 years ago, where it really is the first place that people often find, more information about a designer. They really get to know a designer through a website. Social media can be okay for that, but with algorithms always changing and, audiences not necessarily seeing your posts, those types of things, your website really is where you can dive in deeper and really start to build that no trust like authority piece with your audience and to really be able to showcase what it is that you do in the best possible light and really dive into that. And you can dive into, we'll get into some of these things, but dive into who you are as a designer, what it is that you're, really providing for your client, what sets you apart and really be able to like harness those projects that you're really proud of in a way that, really effective. So that plays into, the design of the website, but also those like keywords and the SEO and the way that you're talking about what, projects that you've done, the results that you created for your clients. So you can do that a little bit on social media, of course. You can tell those stories, but your website is really going to be that main hub where you are showcasing everything in a way that's going to make your ideal clients really want to work with you. And so that's really what I help
I
my
love that.
clients with.
I really do love what you're saying because and that's one of the reasons I was so excited to have you on the podcast because you and I speak the same language when it comes in terms of that because interior design community, if you don't know what the history, we originally started on Google Plus. And
Mhm.
recent news, you're hearing TikTok went away, TikTok came back. And if you are putting all of your eggs in one basket and building your authority, building your web presence on one social media platform, whatever that might be, it's a mistake because you don't own it. It is not yours, and it can change, and it can go away, and that is the reality. I mean, we learned that the hard way, 12, 10 years ago when Google Plus shut down, and we had
Right.
100,000 members on Google Plus, and they were gone in a second, and we luckily kinda saw the writing on the wall when, Google Plus or Google had their annual conference and they weren't mentioning Google Plus. We were like, "Okay, we've gotta we've got to invest in other social media because our community is social based. But for designers, often because we came from the digital marketing side and giving advice to them often, I was back when we were on Google Plus saying, this is a great platform for you because you can put a link in, it's automatically indexed, you can build your authority through authorship, you can build all of these wonderful things for designers to build like their topic authority, which is interior design in their local area through connections and people they know that Google would know where to place their content. And it was great when it was going on, but now that it's no longer in effect, still have all of those tools to utilize within your own website to build authority on Google, to build Google reviews, which I've constantly preached that because you should not leave that to House or any other website. You should have your own reviews on your own website through
Mhm.
Google or through any of the search methods because they don't leave you if that site shuts down. So, and you're really building up authority in where people are searching for you, which is much more important than a third party website. Wouldn't you agree?
For sure. I think it's really important to be driving the audience to your own website and to really be able to capture those leads as much as possible. So that's where that digital marketing and the web design piece, it's like there's these pieces of the puzzle that you kind of want to have it all put together. Social media can be a great way to drive people to your website, but that's like you said, it's not something you can necessarily count on. You can't control like how that's going to play out over time. But if you have those pieces set up with your website, with, a lead magnet is really important, email sign up forms, and then you start to build that relationship with your potential client through those ways there. And I mean, email is great because it's a way that you can really talk directly to your audience in a way that is it's different than social media. You can really become sort of, you know, this you can create these personal relationships that feel more personal than just a broadcast on social media. So I really do often, try to drive home the importance of that with my clients. Providing value through a lead magnet. I know a lot of people struggle with the idea of, I don't know what to do for a lead magnet, especially interior designers. That's something that I really help people with to kind of get clear on, what are your ideal client looking for in terms of value, and how can you provide that through email marketing with a lead magnet, and then also bringing in that blogging piece as well. And it can be really overwhelming for designers, and I really understand that. But I think that's sort of what I see where, when I help people with strategic digital marketing plans, it can really take a lot of that pressure off because it's okay. Now I know what to do this month. And we talked about this before is, batching your content. So just spending a few hours, maybe once a week or twice a month, batching your content and scheduling it. And then it's just like you're doing it all at once. You're focusing on it. You're getting in the rhythm and the flow of it. And you're making sure that, it's telling your story in a logical sense. And, for people that are just founding you, you want that story to come through in a way that really, especially tells people where you're based, who you're servicing, your ideal clients. You really want to speak to them. And I know that can be an overwhelming piece for people, but when you have a bit of a roadmap, that can be so helpful to just be able to say, okay, am I doing this right? Now I did this last time. Now I don't know what to do next time. But when you have sort of the roadmap of, okay, so this is what I'm focusing on in my story. And then of course, it's always important to have really clear call to action buttons and links in your social media profile for sure. Also on your website, with your email marketing, with your blogs, all of those types of things. So really being strategic about letting people know what the next steps are to work with you because, people just, it needs to be really easy and clear. People have such short attention spans these days.
Absolutely. And I can confess here that I was the person that I know so many of you designers out here listening are probably in the same boat that I was with interior design community. We were teaching designers a lot about this, talking about SEO, talking about web development, talking about email lists. But I had a bandwidth issue myself. And even though I do sometimes schedule, we do questions of the day, which are come in from designers, and often they can't be scheduled because they are timely. So I can't do that. Didn't work for my workflow in planning it out for the
Listen,
month because we'd get new questions and they were, please
right.
please help us tomorrow, and we're moving things around and it was like I was duplicating work. So it just made no sense to do it that way. And I struggled with it for myself. I struggled, and I know a lot about web development. I knew I was teaching designers, you have to do this on your website. We at the time had interior design community was behind a membership paywall for the website. So I knew I needed to switch over to public to have a public facing blog. And I just didn't have the manpower to do that. So I did hire out and we are turning our questions of the day into well-written articles, blog articles. We tag designers who are contributing really amazing content because we have so many designers who comment like full long paragraphs of amazing, amazing advice. And so we will quote 3 or 4 designers in that article that kind of goes over, the steps that you might want to take depending on the question of the day. And then later share that post back into social media, tagging the people we quoted so they share it. And we've been doing this for about a year, which I'm embarrassed to say because I've been running for 12 years and we just didn't have the bandwidth to manage the blog and the email list. And in doing this, and I don't want you to compare yourself to me designers out there because we grew so big. So we have 107,000 followers on Instagram and we've been collecting emails through the years, but we weren't using them. And
Right.
so we had a lot of cleaning to do. We had a lot of like housekeeping to do, but And we definitely bootstrapped it. It wasn't like we kind of paid a ton of money for a website, but we started having a strategy. And in the last year, we have had amazing success. So our blog, I want to say in December, hit 100,000 page views, which we were like, yay,
Wow.
100,000 page views. And we were saying, well, that, opens up some possibilities for us. And so we thought, okay, well, I think a whole goal in January should be for the year is we want to hit 500,000 page views by the end of the year. That's a reasonable goal. And we're going to hit that by the end of February. And the reason we're able to hit that is because we have a great combination of blogging and email marketing, because the email is what's driving the majority of our traffic. So we have about
Yeah.
50,000 people on our email list. We do a lead magnet, like you suggested. We did one that was how to DIY your PR for interior designers. We did one on end of year business review, which was, great with John McClain, where we went over everything a designer really needs to think about when they're closing business and just review everything that you did. And then in January, we worked with Christina Pritchard, who she does social media for designers. And we did 300, massive list of 300 frustrations, fears, and desires of an interior design client. Because I found
Right.
so many interior designers are struggling with what to do. What's the content supposed to be? So you have all these, sometimes they're often in this cycle where they want to talk about interior design, but on the level that they understand interior design. And so they're often accidentally marketing to each other, to other interior
Right.
designers, and not to their client, who is like, maybe their fears are, how long is this project going to take? How much money is it going to cost? Am I going to get in over my head? Am I going to be frustrated with my spouse? Like all of the things that anybody thinks
Yeah.
about when you're renovating a
Yeah.
house. And to really think about that from that perspective, like what it is they want. And I can tell you, we get, because we keep our content so specific to designers. We know designers. They're telling us their problems. We're reading the solutions that other designers have provided for 12 years. So we have collected so much information to back up what you were saying. Our lead magnets, our website, our social media marketing, all of those things play together, our email campaigns, and we're getting like 40% open rate and a 34% click through rate, because we
Yeah,
know
that's
them so
awesome.
well. It's unheard of. In this industry, it's like 1% is the average, right? For click through.
Yep.
And
Yep.
we're ridiculous on our click through because we know our audience so, so well, but so do the designers. I mean, if you really had to sit down and think of it, I'm sure every designer could write down right now at least 20 problems that they know their clients have asked questions about. Like, how long does this take? How much money does this cost? Those are standard with everybody. But
Totally.
how do you find out my style? How do you integrate my style with my husband's style? And we want our kids to be involved, or we don't want our kids to be involved, or we're moving and we're downsizing. How can we keep some of the things we really like? And there's all sorts of different questions I'm sure every single interior designer has heard over and over and over again. And every time you hear one of those questions, that's content, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think it is really listening to your ideal clients. Like you said, what are they asking you? What are they telling you? What's their feedback? What are some of the things that maybe they're just, mentioning, on the side of, I've never done this process before. What is that going to look like working with you? Because maybe not every interior designer's process is the same.
No,
Maybe, you know, being clear about some of those things really does take away some of those fears of getting started working with somebody. And those are the types of things that you really want to have, on your website, in your email marketing, in your blog, so that they really feel like, wow, this designer already understands what I'm thinking. That's when you know that like that marketing piece isn't just, I'm trying to sell you something. It's, I understand what you are nervous about, what you're worried about. I understand some of, the hesitations of getting started, is it going to, what if we jump on a call, are you going to, am I going to feel pressured to start right away? Some of those types of things, it's like when somebody feels like you understand them and you haven't even had a call together yet. You haven't talked directly one on one, but you're like, this person I can tell already understands what I'm thinking, what I'm going through. That's where you're building that relationship and nurturing it
And
before
trust,
you
and
even
trust.
and
That's
trust
a
and
huge
trust.
part for designers because so many of
Of course.
them will tell me that their number one pet peeve is that clients don't trust them through the process. But I have to always ask back, well, what are you providing to them before they onboard that gives them that sense of security? You
For
know,
sure.
and that's a lot of times that it, somebody will be thinking about a renovation project or a new project for well over a year, 2 years before they actually start doing something. So you have a number of touch points before you onboard that could be building that trust for you. I think what you're saying,
Definitely.
spot on. You know,
Thank you.
wonderful.
Thank you. And also the other side is, building that social proof, building the trust and authority. And that's through testimonial, like you were saying, Google reviews. And another way that that can be done is through collaborations with local businesses that have a similar audience, where maybe you do a spotlight on them on your blog and, maybe you interview them, like a local business that maybe is exactly, same ideal clients. You know that there a lot of people that you work with go to this place. Maybe it's a store, maybe it's a restaurant that has
I
amazing
can
design.
I can give you a number of them. If I'll just rattle off real quick, I'm like the local steakhouse, the Mercedes dealership, the local private school, the anyone that services a luxury client. It could be an esthetician, it could be a specific hair salon, it could be a art gallery, it could be a,
Mhm.
where are people spending disposable in the money in your area? You have to think of where do the luxury clients go? And you know what? I really use ChatGPT for this kind of research. It's
Yeah,
an easy
for
way to
sure.
I live in X town. Give me 100 businesses that service high income earners in my area. And all of those people you should be following on Instagram. You should be creating content that where you could content share, link build, collaborate,
Yeah,
network, even in-person networking with those businesses. Sometimes those
totally.
business owners themselves could become clients of yours because they are successful in their business. So it's a really smart thing to do and not just concentrate on architects and real estate agents as a networking partner. There's a lot of different businesses in your area that service the luxury market and thinking about it in terms of that and how could and seasonal too. Like, I live in New Hampshire, so skiing is a fortune. I mean, it wasn't when I was a kid, but it is now. And you
Yeah,
can spend, $600 on a day of skiing today. And all of those mountains that are near me, they, service the luxury market. It's not expensive. It's very expensive to have a weekend away, skiing. And those, I know designers who are focusing on that market, anyone who has like a ski house, you know, and they're cleaning up, because they're doing that the same way. They're marketing toward that client. They understand that market and they've niched in and they're doing incredibly well. And I think every designer could be thinking about that in terms of where they are and what would be where people are spending, that disposable income for me within an hour and a half, 2 hours, I've got Cape Cod, I've got the mountains, I've got the seashore, with Portsmouth and so and there's just lots of different businesses within an hour that I know if I were a designer, I could collaborate with those, they might be having a wine tasting at some new hotel or a golf tournament or something else going on that is timely, that is interesting to your audience who want to live a certain lifestyle because design is also linked to lifestyle, so hand in hand.
of course.
Your clients would want to know about because I don't want to know how do you finish drapery. That's boring to me. That's what you are geeking out about because a designer is very excited about new fabric and all of those kinds of things. Trends from High Point Market. As a client, I don't think their clients really care. They care because they're at High Point Market. They had so much fun. But translating it to, I found 20 things that I know would be in your Cape Cod beach house. That to me is way more interesting to your local market than trends that I found that I liked. These are things I liked versus these are things I know you could use. And you're probably going to, if I'm going to spring market in April, I'm thinking about everybody who's going to be revamping their lake house or their ocean house over the summer or wanting outdoor living, and I'm thinking I'm gonna spend a lot of time with beautiful outdoor living pieces or beachy coastal design so that I can address my market locally.
For sure. And I think this also comes back to the SEO piece as well, where we're talking about, how can you create blog posts that people want to look at and will want to share. And, one of the things is like we're talking about right now, creating, a local guide to, a weekend away, or maybe a local's guide to a weekend in your area. And you're talking about those local businesses. You're, having, tagging them when you're sharing it on social media. Then they're going to see it. They're going to share it. Then you have access to their audience. You have ways, you really want to have those call to actions in there too, so that people will, check out your website, check out your, your lead magnets or whatever. But those types of things that really does help with SEO. We talked about this before when we met, making it really clear, where are you located? That's such a big thing for interior designers. It's,
Absolutely.
you're dealing with people in a certain area. So you want to have those words throughout your website for those keywords that Google's going to crawl and pull up when people are searching for things in your area. So that's definitely that SEO piece, is bringing that into the blogging, bringing that into the email marketing. And a lot of times people don't really think about it. Oh, I have to write a blog post and an email and a social media. But if you're creating really great content with your blog post, in those emails that you're sending out to people, your monthly newsletter, you can be talking about your blog. On social
Yeah,
media, you can be talking
that's
about
what
your
we do.
blog posts. You're
That's all we
driving
do.
people to the blog, and you
I
don't
don't
have
write.
to have new, different content. It's letting people know about this amazing content that you're creating.
Sure, I don't even create a newsletter per se. It's just this article and this art. I make it look like a fashion magazine because that's what I know I like and what I think designers
Yeah,
like. So it's like
totally.
it's part of our, different articles about business, but we make it look like fun and fashionable. And then we have some social media posts and some memes and some events in there. And it writes itself because it's all things we're already talking about. And you have so much seasonality built into a year anyway. Like, we're coming up on Valentine's Day. You could plan out the most Instagrammy fun, romantic, design friendly, evening for your local customers and clients. And so that they understand like which restaurants they should book and which ones have the best decor. And you can always angle things so that it is addressing your market, but you don't have to only talk about design. You really can talk about
No,
lifestyle because your client wasn't only interested in design. They were interested in, lifestyle. They wanted their lives to improve by design. They invested in it because they want beauty around them. So they love maybe art and they love culture and they love, some of them or they love sports or they love their other activities that they are enjoying that you would know. I want to dive in while we have 15 more minutes left. I want to dive into the anatomy of the website because so much
yeah.
is could be improved. Let's talk about it from page to page as we go through an interior design website. Let's start homepage. What do you think designers get wrong on the homepage?
Well, I think there's a lot of things, but obviously the visual design is going to be so important to clients that are looking for an interior designer. Having really professional photos of your best projects, the projects that you are the most proud of, obviously, and that are really your ideal client project, your ideal style, all of those things. You want to have amazing photos of those. And then right away, you want to have a headline of who you are and what you're doing. And so this is going to also play into the SEO. You want to make sure that you're using the right heading font for your different sections. So your H1 font, that's going to be what Google is going to associate with what it is you're doing and who you are and where you're located. So having those those fonts in a way that's laid out so that right away you're saying, this is who I am and what I'm doing, and just some really impressive visuals, and making sure you have those buttons that go to your contact page very strategically placed throughout your homepage so that if somebody comes to your website and they are ready to hire you or hire somebody right away, it's very easy for them to see how they can get in contact with you, where you're located, and what you're doing. Obviously, right away, you have your hero content that's, the top of the page, great visuals, great headline, a little bit about, what you do and where you're located with a very clear call to action button. Below that, I would, showcase a portfolio picture with a link to be able to view your portfolio. So another really awesome professional photo of another project that you've done. I would try to vary the images of projects to really show like a range of what you're doing. I wouldn't just use all photos from one project on the homepage because you really want to give some visual dynamics to what you're doing. And then you can have a section with services. So just really clear about services that you're offering. And when people talk about services, this is another thing that I like to tell my clients is yes, you want to talk about the services that you're offering in a way that's really clear and easy to understand for somebody that's not an interior designer. But you also really want to talk about the results that you're delivering and that you are touching on what their pain points are when you're talking about those services. Okay, you do, technical drawings, you do, space layouts, all of those things. That's great. But what results are you providing? And also talking about how are they gonna feel when this is completed? So talking about some of those types of things and then, that services section, linking to your services page where you go more in depth. This doesn't all have to be on the homepage, but I think bringing in the results into describing the services is really important. Um, and then having your lead magnet on your homepage is great. So having, an image that really does relate to what your lead magnet is about, a really easy way, like a sign up form right on your homepage so that they can easily just enter their email address. If you want their first name, that's fine. And then they can get it right away. Making things very intuitive and easy to understand is really what I focus on. So really, what are people coming to your website? What do they want to find out when they come to your website? And I think, it's what you're providing and then also a little bit about you. So that could be another section on the homepage is, a little blurb about you with a great professional photo and then a link to the about page and then a footer that's really clean and really easy to understand, there could be some navigation links in the footer, your logo, maybe your tagline, something
Your
like that.
social,
And
your
your
all,
social media, of course.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
That's
think
I like to keep it simple.
Yeah, I think one of the mistakes that I see over and over is not a location. I think that
Yeah,
happens more often than I'd like to see for the designers. You know your location. You think that Google knows your location because you've got your Google My Business, but it doesn't necessarily know that from in terms of search. So you really do need to have your physical address or your area of service right there on the site so that the first thing I should see is who you are, what you do, and where you are. That
exactly.
is the most important. Let's get into the about page, like about them. What are your feelings about that? Should they be talking about their journey and how they started in interior design? Should they be talking about projects? Should they have images? What do you think about the meet the team or that kind of thing?
Yes, again, professional photos that show a little bit of your personality and style, I think are important. If you are somebody that kind of reserved and serious, I wouldn't have a photo where you're like, you know, showing that you're like kind of zany or fun. It's like really show your personality. Maybe you are zany and fun, charismatic, and you kind of want to showcase that through the photo because people, when they're looking for interior designers, they're obviously looking for some visual cues about the person. And then talking about, I think, yes, having a bit about your background is great, but infusing your personality into that is great. So your experience, your background, when you started, I think those things are a great thing to showcase for sure. And you can, on the about page, I would still have the call to action button to contact me. I would keep it really simple. I think sometimes people kind of they treat it almost like it's like a resume or like a CV, where it's like it doesn't need to be that detailed. I think keeping it simple is important because people aren't going to read paragraphs and paragraphs. They're going to read the headline, they're going to skim through. If you have some bullet points about your experience and, how long you've been working in the area, again, talking about the area that you work in and infusing a bit of your personality in there. If you are somebody that likes to joke around or you're somebody that, I see often will people will say, I I'm passionate about fashion as well as interior design. And I, love going to this coffee shop in the morning to get this drink. And it's just like little things that kind of help people sort of get a sense of who you are and get to know you. I think we've all worked with somebody where we've met them and we think, wow, this person is really great. They really get me. And also, I really love all of the things that they're into. Like they're into a lot of the same things that I am. They love going to this restaurant. That's my favorite restaurant. This is their, specialty coffee drink. I love that too. You really want to try to connect on some of those
I'm common ground.
levels.
Yeah,
And
love
it's like
that.
you start to feel like this person is a friend that's going to get you before you even reach out. You're like, oh, they can throw in a little bit of humor here and now. I love that. Just a little bit of that without going overboard. And I would say keeping it short, like a paragraph or two, maybe three at the most, where you just want to they want to get an overall sense of who you are. And then you want them to want to get to know you even more. So then that's when they sign up for the email list. And then that's when you start to, pepper in some of the different things, maybe about, this was one of my favorite projects and this is why. And this is who I love to work with. And that's why. That doesn't have to be all on the about page. That will come over time when you nurture that relationship because people only have so much time and they're not going to read long, long paragraphs. I think that's one thing that I like to stress is keep it short, keep it simple, don't be too wordy, be really clear and have great photos and
Editing,
call to
editing.
actions.
Let's talk service page because this is very controversial in this industry because design is so personalized. It's a custom thing for the person that is getting it. And it really depends on the project. Yes, they can do whole home renovation, they can do a kitchen, they can do a bathroom, they can do a living room, they can do color consultation. There's so many of them can do a number of different services and choose to do one or the other. But many, many designers, I would say the majority, they will take a lot of different kinds of projects. So
Right.
I think they're hesitant to write pricing. I think they're hesitant to write because it so depends on what the client's budget is. I mean, they could do a luxury kitchen that, and some designers are at a level where they're like, yeah, our kitchens are going to be $500,000. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what I do. But then there are designers who are like, I can do it for 100. There's a lot I could do for 100. I like a lot I could do for 40 or 60. So they're hesitant because they don't want to lose the client that wants a $500,000 kitchen if they put a range of prices or that usually happens during consultation where they find out
Yeah.
about the budget, find out about the scope, and then they offer pricing. What would you suggest on their service page?
So the service page, I think outlining what you do clearly is very important and visually in a way that is not overwhelming. That's a lot of what I do with strategic web design is just making sure that the information is really clear. And, that can be, if you do a huge range of projects, you can mention some of those things in a way that's okay, this person does do smaller projects, but then they'll do bigger projects in terms of the pricing, and I guess one other thing I'll mention is that outlining a little bit of that is okay for each service type with a paragraph, and talking about, the results as well is important in that the way that you're writing that. But in terms of pricing, I personally think that because it is so difficult to know what a project is going to entail when you before you talk to somebody and before you understand, okay, how much space is it? How much, needs to be like demoed? There's so many aspects. I think that it's probably best to talk about that, you provide pricing after a consult because that way you need to gather, I think that designers need to gather information before they can provide a quote, and you don't want to lose those bigger clients, and you also don't want to maybe lose a client that has a smaller project that you're excited about. I think on either side of the spectrum, you don't really want to alienate a potential client that could be your dream client. And I think that mentioning on the site that, like, we do, I do a consultation, the process of that, I think is an important thing. What are the first steps? So you get in touch, we schedule a consultation call, we go over what your needs are, and then I can provide you a quote. I think making that clear, what that process is, will take away some of those fears of, "Oh, but what if, it's way out of my budget?" And it's, "Well, we'll talk about it. We'll find out what your budget is and if that's something that we can work within." So I think just being clear about some of those things, addressing those pain points with your potential client of what does this process look like and when will I get a quote? And that's my viewpoint. I mean, the other thing is that maybe somebody knows their ideal client really well, and they know that seeing the price on their website will actually be something that's really helpful. Maybe they've got a lot of feedback from past clients and they've said that.
That's great information. How about the service page?
Yeah. So, service page, obviously, very important to outline what a designer does. You really want to speak to your ideal clients in a way where you're clear about what you're doing and you're showcasing some of the photos of the projects that you've done at the same time. And I would just say, yeah, be really clear, concise about the services that you're offering. You really want to have some clear CTAs on that page, obviously, as well, and you also wanna really talk about the results that you deliver within those services and have it be an easy way for people to say, "Okay, I really understand what this person is doing. I wanna take the next steps." Talking a little bit about the process of the next steps. So, once you book a consult call, we'll talk about what your project needs are, what you're looking for, and then, I'll provide you a quote. So I know that sometimes people aren't sure if they should, talk about their prices on the services page or not. Generally, I would say that you need to gather more information in a consult call before you can provide the pricing. And that kind of gets you away from alienating projects that are a bigger budget or a smaller budget because, you know, maybe you don't normally do smaller projects, but it's a client that you just absolutely love and want to work with and an exciting project. And maybe that's something that you would do, but you wouldn't like,
Or
necessarily
business is
or
slow,
advertise that.
right? Or business are slow to that source. I mean, I know a lot of designers right now because
Exactly.
of the economy, business is slow. Maybe a project that they wouldn't have taken a year ago, they're willing to take now because they need some projects in the pipeline. So
And maybe it's
alienating,
going to be project. Sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
alienating people is never, what the designer wants to do, but they also want to attract the projects that they really want to do, you know? They're easier for them to manage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And maybe
Well,
it's a project, like smaller project where it's going to be really great for your portfolio, which is the next thing that I think I would like to talk
absolutely.
about. Um,
Portfolio.
yeah, so linking to the portfolio from the services page can be really helpful. So like let's say you're doing kitchen renovations and bathroom renovations and full house renovation. you can have those services outlined with links to some of those projects that you really want people to see that are specific to those types of services. So a portfolio, I really recommend picking, usually I would say 4 to 5 projects that are just the, the top projects. You don't have to put every project in. If you feel like, "Oh, that wasn't really the kind of thing that I wanna do again, but, I need to show it because I did it." It's like, no, you don't have to show all the projects that you've done. Show the best ones for sure, and especially the ones that are in line with your ideal client and the anatomy of a portfolio page. So you can have it split up into different types of projects. On the portfolio page, you could have kitchen projects, bathroom projects, full renovation projects, full house projects. You can have it split up that way. Or if you want, you can just have those projects listed and then have the titles be in the titles what that type of project is. And on the individual project pages, this is where it's really important to make sure you have amazing photos, that you're optimizing, that are cropped and the right size for your website. So your site speed isn't slowed down by photos that are way too big. You want to make sure that they're the right size and that they're very high quality. And then you really want to talk about what the project was. Who was the client? Where are they located? Again, that SEO for Google crawling is going to be really important to make sure that you are talking about the location. You can talk about the client. You can talk about the process a little bit about, okay, this client came to me with these problems. I also recommend having before and after pictures. That really does give a sense for people of visually seeing what the work was and what the results were. So, yeah, like I said, talking about, what were the needs of the client and then what were the results? And then being really clear about those results. And also, how did the client feel? And getting a client testimonial on that portfolio page,
Oh,
super important.
wow. I
Mm.
love it.
Yeah.
So
So,
that's brilliant. I never thought of that. That's brilliant right there.
yeah, you really,
That
and then yeah, just tying that into, you know, and the testimonial doesn't have to be long, but one thing that I've learned from doing my own business for a long time with client testimonials, this is sort of at a more of a digital marketing piece, I guess, but it ties into web design. Having a Google form where you ask the client really specific questions about their experience with you. So, what were your needs and your problems when you came to me? What were some of the things that I helped you with right away? How did you feel at the end of the project? Like, and you can ask them also, like, were there things that could be improved upon? Because those things, although not always easy to hear, can really help you. Obviously, you wouldn't be using that in your testimonial on your page, but those are things that will help you with your own process. And people like getting it in a timely manner so that they have it fresh in their mind. They're still super excited about what just happened and they have it all fresh in their mind. So getting that from them, putting that on the portfolio page, and then also again, clear CTAs, calls to action on the portfolio page, with a tagline of, like, are you ready to start working together? Are you ready to chat about your project? With a button that takes them right to the contact page. So, you want people to feel when they come to your portfolio page that like, wow, this is an amazing transformation, or this is exactly what I'm looking for. Where do I sign up? Like, where do I take the next steps? And some of those things you want to address the pain point and then you wanna have that social proof building the trust and authority with those testimonial. And not you don't have to make it super, super long. Try to edit down to, like, what is really, really important. I would say that I'm quite proud of my transformation with my case studies on my website that I've done recently. I have a business coach that really helped me to really get these case studies really clear and designed in a way that's really clear about what I'm doing and how I'm helping my clients. So I would suggest maybe having people check out my case studies on my website. And you don't have to follow the same format necessarily, but just you can, I think it's really clear like what the sections are and how you're talking about what you're doing, what the results were, and then how the client felt at the end. And
And I would throw in there too that talk about the brands and other, collaborative partners so that when you are
for
sharing it,
sure,
yeah, they might share your portfolio images as well.
totally,
And it's honestly practice for a press release for that project. So as you're writing a press release that you might want
totally.
to to the press, it's very similar to what you would have on your portfolio. But I would say 99% of designers have no words at all on their portfolios. And you're missing Google doesn't they can now really know what pictures are so they can contextually and understand that's a kitchen. But they don't know what you did for that project. They can't say, "Okay, this is an interior designer who designed this kitchen." For all they know, you just took this picture through AI or this was just a friend of yours kitchen, and it has nothing to do with whether what you did for the project. So Google doesn't know how to place you as the designer. So if you're writing,
Yeah.
fully renovated this kitchen, I designed this kitchen, it's telling Google I designed this. So you need those words, right?
Yeah, and you also want potential client to know what you did.
Sure.
So
All right.
you want
Yeah.
everybody to know what you did. But yes, for the SEO piece, also another part of that is making sure that you're using those alt text for images to talk about the like what you did and the location again. That's going to help with that SEO piece as well. But I also, yeah, I love the idea of tagging in talking about the brands that you've used. So, what paint company did you use? What wallpaper company did you use? What furniture company did you use? Because you can send that to them and you can post it on social media and tag them, and they're likely to repost it or share that with their audience. That's free content for them. Everybody wants an easy way to share free content that's going to make
Yep.
you look good. So, those are some of the ways that you can utilize that.
That's awesome. And then, well, last, you've already sort of touched on this, but we'll talk with the blog. They do need a blog, correct?
Yes. I would say, your blog is where you're really pulling in the SEO and those keywords. It makes it a really easy way to drive people to your website when you share those blog posts on social media and with your email marketing. That's your content there. So you're driving people back to the website. You're using those, important keywords such as location, the types of services that you're doing. And then that's where you can also bring in that magic with those other local businesses and different collabs where you can get people to share your content and reach their audiences. That's a really great way to look at the marketing process in terms of, how can I collab with a local business that has, a lot of their audience is who I'm looking for. And yeah,
Do
I
you
think
have a
definitely having a
suggestion?
blog.
Do you have a suggestion on how often you should blog? Is it 1 to 2 times a week, 1 to 2 times a month? What
I
is your
would
suggestion?
say my suggestion is twice a month is, I think, reasonable and sustainable amount. If it's once a month, that's all you have the bandwidth for, that's that's better than nothing. But I would say twice a month would be the ideal. And then, you can send out newsletters either on both of those twice a month or pick one of them, or you can mention both of them in your blog, in your email marketing. But it's just it's providing enough content that that SEO piece really will come through if you're doing it twice a month and you're utilizing the keywords of who you are, what you're doing, your services that you're offering, and your location. Location, location, location. So important, especially for people that are offering in person services. That's something you really want to mention, in all your blog posts, on your website, on every page, and also your page, your meta descriptions for your pages, mentioning the locations, mentioning who you are, what you're doing, really important. So,
And I will tell you, even if you are a designer who dreams up or has done international projects or projects all over the country, still focus on your local market because that's
for sure.
90% of what you're doing. So keep your location information local to you where you actually live. And it's not going to turn off someone who's across the country that absolutely has to have you for a designer if your local SEO is in New York City or Chicago or wherever, if you're that amazing, but you still want to make sure you're doing what you need to do for your local audience, right?
For sure. And I think the way that you can kind of bring that piece in is that if you are open to traveling or working on projects outside of your area, is on your contact page. You can say, I live and work in this place, but I also work with clients nationally, internationally, globally. If you want to, on the contact page, that can be where they can get an indication, okay, so they're based here. That's where they primarily service their client, but they are willing to travel for the right project. So
Well, thank you so much, Renee. This has been so informative. I know our designers are going to be so excited. I'm going to make sure that you all have her links so you can go check her out. And we
thank
really
you.
enjoyed talking to you. Thank you.
Yeah, this has been so great, Lori. Thank you.
Bye.